where the magic happens. Conversations flow and the laughter snapping. Here at Netter's Network, where the stories come alive. Every episode's a journey, every guest a drive. Netter's Network, tune in for the show, where the headlines meet the heart, and we all get to know. From the highs to the lows, we've got it all in tow. Netter's Network, where the world's on the go.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Thursday Things. Tonight, I have two special guests, Tom Konkle and Lucinda Bruce, two of my favorite people. And let me tell you, I have had a day today, and I have been so looking forward to this.
She's actually looking forward to an adult beverage tomorrow night.
That too. But I have been so looking forward to this because I know that you guys have such fantastic news about Island in the Stars that you're going to share.
Well,
with the chat.
I don't know, because I wasn't involved in the conversation between
just from the rumors
Tom and between Tom and Netter, but this is how I think it went. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. So Netter and I have contributed, of course, to the Indiegogo, right? So we get updates whenever there's updates, and we got some great, exciting news, and we were so excited. And Netter's like, "Oh, I want to say," and she's like, "Tom, can I tell people? And he's like, "I don't know, that Lucinda, she doesn't want to let any news out. Maybe not, Lucinda." And Lucinda was like, "Oh, would you just go on that girl's show and just get her off our back already?" Is that how it went? I'm thinking that's how it went.
Not like word for word. Do you have like a listening device somewhere?
I figured.
Well, before we get into it, let's say hello to our chat real quick.
Yes. So starting out, well, first person I'm seeing here is Connie Cleary. Hail to the Bird Woman of YouTube. Welcome. Always great to see you. Channel member JPRPH1 dropping the smolder picture, the retro cinema, the smile, and Netter's Network. Welcome. Good to see you. Curtis Selby, before he says hi to any of us, Tom Konkle, he says.
Hello.
And I don't blame you. And in fact, here he is. Lights, camera, Konkle. Link in the description below. Make sure you're following him on the YouTube. He's got some great, sometimes very, very funny, well, pretty much always funny. You just have funny content. It's not like you put out a lot of
funny. Yeah.
You don't put out a lot of dramas, except for Trouble Is My Business, which you can also find on his.
Also, though, I do have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I have a serious adaptation of that I did with Vernon.
That's right.
Which is kind of cinema for your ears. It's an hour and a half adaptation of the Jules Verne book, and it is played straight. You know, it's a rare straight drama that I've got on the page, which I'd invite people to listen to.
And of course, as I'm going through all the commentaries, this our Flatstone guy over on Rumble is saying that you should contribute to Island in the Stars. There is the link. It's pinned to all the chats up at the top. Make sure that you do that while we're saying hi to everybody, including Deleted Scenes, who says, like, share, subscribe, and become a member. Thank you so much,
yes, please.
my friend. My designated driver for tomorrow night, Aged Boomer, saying hi. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you. Did I say that? Yeah, Curtis Selby gets around to saying hi to us eventually. Let's see.
It's important.
Anyone? Well, yeah, absolutely. Jesse Guardo says hello to everyone and welcome, my friend. Let's see. DJ Play Nice stopping by to say hey and to bump the Al Gore rhythms with a thumbs up. Have an awesome show. Hope you come back later on. You're going to be interested in the news we have to share tonight. Let's see. Have I missed anyone? No, I believe I said hi to Jesse Guardo. I think we're caught up. So let's go ahead and get going. What are you guys doing here?
That's a good question today. Yeah.
Trying
What
to
are we
stay
doing?
warm at the moment. Trying to stay warm.
Yes. So for those of you that don't realize, where Lucinda is very, very chilly.
Her picture
Here-
should
here
be
in the-
upside down in this chat.
I was
It
just
should
going to
be
say, she's in the
on top.
southern hemisphere right now, and they're entering their winter as we are entering our summer. So
Getting
I'm
chilly.
going to ask a dumb question. Do you guys celebrate Christmas like in your summertime? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we have a great like we'll do, occasionally hot meals, but sort of tend to keep it like cold meats and, things like that, and nice sort of big salads and, keep it
Christmas
sort of
stand.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, in fairness, I think about, and I only know this from movies, like Christmas in California or Hawaii, with the palm trees.
Yeah,
with
we
the
put
twinkly
little
lights.
balls on our palm tree. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
well, we
exactly.
don't have too many palm trees where I am, unfortunately. But
It
but
is
yeah, no,
disorienting. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a very different thing. We also have Christmas in July, and we have like and we celebrate Christmas in July as well in a lot of different places, so that we can have a wintry Christmas.
We kind of have that too, but it's more just an excuse to, make you go shopping again.
Yeah, yeah.
Welcome, Logical Spark. He's got an interesting question. Any relation to Lenny Bruce?
None that I'm aware of.
Fair enough.
More like
Yeah.
Robert the Bruce. I think is it Robert,
Robert
the
the
Bruce?
Bruce. Yes,
Robert the
exactly.
Bruce. Yeah.
I have done my ancestry, and so far it's not proven yet, without sort of question. But so far I've gone back to the Vikings, like 980 something.
Nice.
Yeah. So Rollo the Viking is apparently my 32nd great grandfather or something. But there you go.
That's not bad. That seems
Yeah.
pretty badass. I think
Rollo.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Troy's only claim to fame is that his great uncle
Uncle.
was Pope Pius XII,
Pope Pius the 12th. Yeah.
Eugenio Pacelli.
lot of
Nice.
controversy there with that whole little dust up that happened in Europe back then. But
A little dust up. Yeah, exactly.
well, I mean,
Yeah. It happens.
people think they know something about these days, and most don't. But what I want to know about is a really awesome sci-fi film that I'm looking forward to called Island in the Stars. What can you
Yes,
tell us
indeed.
about that, Tom?
Sure. It's been an interesting journey, more now than ever, with all the fundamental changes that have been going on clearly in Hollywood and everywhere else. The sort of artificial scarcity that Hollywood used to create, where they made the big blockbusters, they made the IP, and they were creating films because they had a monopoly on the mechanisms to make films. This year has really been a reckoning.
Yeah.
When I say artificial scarcity, I mean, the IP. It's like, well, we're the only ones who can make a Marvel movie, and we're the only ones who can do this or that. Yeah, fine, but those are no longer a sure thing. And with Island in the Stars, it started off as, what's the basket I could put everything in that 14-year-old Tom wanted to see in a movie? And how do I take all those skills and all the things and all the wonderful, talented people that I know and put them into one story that I want to see, that I want to tell, that I hope other people would? And it became Island in the Stars because it was a dream project for so many people, including Vernon Wells. He was telling me about his bucket list. And this year, our real forward motion is because of the crowdfunding, we were able to engage a really good entertainment lawyer. And something that he's been able to do for Lucinda and I is open doors to talent and to money and things that we wouldn't have that relationship. We don't move in that circle, or it's pretty funny. Like we were going to George Miller to possibly have him, be a consulting producer, executive producer on it. And Vernon obviously knows him from Mad Max, but to get him to take a call, you needed the lawyer to call, to get that call returned, because it's different when a friend is calling, just go, hey, I'm catching up with Vernon, versus, hey, you have a call from LA. It's from a lawyer about a legit business thing, about a legitimate project, it does generate it. And that sort of energy around it was why we originally did, and we made our crowdfunding for that first portion of it. That was the whole plan. And that plan is working. Something that's been happening is we're going out to actors that are your dream to have read it, like Liam
Yes.
Neeson or something, to read the script and possibly be interested in it. That's the step that we're in right now, and it is a delicate dance that you always do, where you want someone to look at your project. We are raising money now to be able to pay a deposit for said person. So when they come back and if they say yes, we kind of need to be ready to go, okay, well, here's 10% down. This is our offer. Can we tell people that you want to do it? So we're in that stage now where we've had a significant number of people that we wanted come back and say, yeah, make me an offer. So Lucinda and I are playing that game right now of, we have talent that wants to do it. We've got a great project that's opening the door, and we need to deal with the gatekeepers that are around some of those people to put money down to say, guess what? We have this person now. And we can go forward to a distributor and get what's called a MG, which is a minimum guarantee. And that minimum guarantee is what the movie would make, if you sold it to each territory or each area of the world. This is what we feel like it's worth with this person in it. So that's the dance we're playing right now. And the great news is, I think I can say it, Liam Neeson is reading it right now, and he doesn't read a lot. So, and Lucinda was able to make that happen through, and she could probably tell you a little bit about her friend who also knew him, if you want to tell a little bit about the background on that, where, possibly he put that in his ear to read it.
Yeah, I'm actually, I'm not 100% sure. I've been talking to a dear friend of mine about the project quite a bit, wanting him to also be involved, and he in his own right is a very well-established very well-established martial artist and actor called Richard Norton, who's very tragically and very recently and very painfully just passed away, unfortunately, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And his funeral was just over the weekend, and he was a very dear friend to so many people in the industry, and Liam was a very dear friend of his. And Richard was sort of lining up, to kind of help out and be involved with the project and speak to a few different people. And one of them was hopefully going to be Liam, and I don't know whether he ever got the chance to, but Liam is currently reading the script, which is really cool that that he's reading it and having a look at it, and their team is considering it, which is always nice. We're not allowed to use that in any capacity, unfortunately, at this stage. But yeah, it's just nice to know that we're getting these things sent out to some very wonderful, amazing actors, and we're making those connections, and they're reading the stories that we want to tell, and I think that in itself is a win.
Yeah. I like that attitude. I mean, imagine how I feel as a writer or as a creator. It's like you put this stuff up there, but you never imagine, well, this person's actually reading it. Like, they're actually considering it. They think it's has the merit to be something that they might want to do. To me, that just feels like a fantastic win, as she said. And we are more prepared now than ever to respond. I think that's the important thing in our evolution, is just as people and artists, you're like, you dip your toe into this and you're like, okay, this begins taking on its own life. And it's like, okay, now I'm dealing with, how do you do an offer to Liam Neeson to be in a movie, and it's amazing for me. As many years as I've done this, it never gets dull, and it never is the same river that you dip your toe in. Everything is different now than it was 5 years ago. In the way you talk to talent, the way you finance, the way you talk to talent, the way movies are made, all of it changes on this sort of cycle. And so, from the support that we've been getting on the crowdfunding, which is still open, and you guys have been instrumental in helping it. It's still open.
We right up there at the top of the chat, everybody.
Yes,
absolutely.
Right click on that and check it out.
Yep.
So many different levels that you can buy into. I think the cheapest one is, what is it, something like $1, $2, something like that?
Yeah.
And it goes all the way up to much more.
Yeah.
All the way up to basically you're producing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
But all of the different levels are fantastic, and you can choose where you're comfortable, or you can pick several. Troy and I think, each picked 3 each, because it's like, this one had these things we wanted, but then this one had something else we wanted, and this one had still something else we wanted. So we bought a couple.
Yeah. And you know what?
And
What I'm Go ahead.
welcome, Tim. I just want to say, yes, you're in the right place. Welcome back. This is the Netter Show, but we are talking about Island in the Stars. We're very excited.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, and it's also one thing I'm proud about is we just don't have our hand out. The reason we're doing it is because there's a new way of making these things, and it's enrolling the people now as an audience to go, we want to be part of like changing the direction of how stuff gets made. We want to see original stuff. We want to support it, and we want to give back something to them for being there for us when we need them now. Because it's like any startup. There's all this burn through that you have to do at the beginning to get everything going. Then you get everyone that you can show, look, there's interest. There's eyeballs. People want to see an original movie. They're sci-fi fans. They're adventure fans, whatever they are. And here we are with just a place that you can go and vote with your wallet, that you can say, okay, you know what? I want to be part of it. Like my name will be there if Liam Neeson did it. I helped produce a Liam Neeson movie, and I didn't need Hollywood to do it.
Exactly. There was something you said the last time you were on that I thought was kind of brilliant. You were talking about when you go and you pitch an idea and everybody is saying, well, we want to do a remake or we want to do something else with this property that's a well-known thing. Well, why do they do that? Because in their minds, it's a well-known thing. It's a fairly, we know
Sure
that there's
thing.
Well, yeah, as
Yeah.
sure a thing as you can in the entertainment industry. But it's like, we know that there's an audience for that. This is a way of saying, look, I know you've never heard of this before because it's never been done before. But here, we're putting the cart in front of the horse by showing you in advance that there's an audience for it.
Yeah. And I think you're right. A writer friend of mine who also does screenplays and stuff had read Island recently. And I was looking for notes and everything. He's like, I don't really have any notes. I mean, man, you really built this world. Like, I want to see this movie. Like you know how it's inhabited. It reads like a novel. And I said, well, that's just how my brain is working about it. Yeah. Is that I can see it fully formed as a world and as characters playing in it. And it is original, but it pays homage to all the great, stories and classic characters and stuff. It's just a new synthesis of it, so you don't know how it ends. You don't, it's not a remake where you're like, well, I know Snape's gonna die. It's like big surprise in the Harry Potter reboot.
Yeah.
It's just, it's to me, everything old is new again in a way, because it's just that classic mold of you go back to your roots and go, well, what stories do I want to see? And hopefully people agree with me. And then as a writer and as a filmmaker, I go, let me make the best thing I can possibly make with what I have to work with. And in this case, it includes crowdfunding so that there is a dialogue. Like, I want to hear what people think. I want to share how we make it. I want to give back and say, thanks for getting the ticket now when we needed you. And to me, if that model could work and we could make this go, then there's just less gatekeepers and crap you have to go through to get anything made that's decent. So it isn't just corporations going, here's our white paper and we're following the trend. Apparently blue is big this year, and then they just make more of that. And then you wonder, like, even with AI, it's like, well, AI is going back and looking at all the classic stuff that we've created and generated. What happens when we run out of that stuff? And then we're just making copies of copies of copies.
It's all the same over and over again.
Yeah.
So Jesse has a question. I think he's concerned because he's heard that Liam Neeson has had some physical issues, and he's wondering, if the role that he's reading for, would be a terribly active role, or if it would be more of a cerebral kind of.
That's a terrific question. This is an age-appropriate role. He is playing a Victorian-style doctor, and most importantly, because this is a story of a woman going on a hero's journey, she's flawed, and she denies the adventure, and she needs to learn about herself, so she has him as a mentor. He's a doctor that she respects, and she is learning from him. And the reason that we would want someone like Liam is for his gravitas, for his wisdom, for his wry sense of humor, for a side of him that is obviously there, but it doesn't all have to be taken. It doesn't all have to be the ass kicking one, though wonderful though it was. I still think that he will have a physical active part, but this isn't him going around punching people. This is someone who uses his mind to solve problems, and the lead character respects. Like, you don't knock him down to make her look good.
That's always nice,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the cornerstones of storytelling, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
the hero's journey exists for a reason. It's kind of codified because, in a way, it's like humanity looked at all the stories that we've told over time and did kind of what AI does, looks and finds all the similarities and whatnot, but with an understanding of it, to know how to play on that.
Yes, it's all the universal truth. What is it that a storyteller can tell the truth by telling lies? You make up a story and it's true. And that is true of mythology. It's true of anyone's journey in their life. It's your grace notes, it's your music, but the overall structure and the way it's played is universal. You can show an adventure to anyone in any culture, and everyone has had to face that in their life. Whether it's just getting up in the morning and going to work and doing it because you know that people are counting on you and you have to be responsible and take it. That's a hero's journey too. It is important that we tell the story again and again and again, because the minute we dismiss it or deconstruct that story, then we don't celebrate everything that that's supposed to be. That she is going to become a hero in the story is everybody. Everyone has to face that, and even if you don't physically, go through the trials in a story, you should leave the movie feeling like you went there and you got through it, and you maybe you feel something, you learned something.
Want to thank Geek Flag with Nate Knows. Thank you so much. Celebrating 6 months of membership. Thank you so much for your support, my friend. He says, hello everyone. Troy, Tom, evening. Welcome.
Hello.
Good to see you. No, absolutely. I remember somebody once telling me about, I said, certain kind of music I didn't care for. Said, when it comes to music, all the same rules apply. Whether it's classical music, jazz, pop, ballads, whatever, certain notes go together. If you put them together in the wrong order, it sets your teeth on edge. And honestly, I feel like a lot of the movies that I've been seeing lately set my teeth on edge. They like you. What was the word you used? It deconstructs the hero's journey. It subverts expectations, to borrow a phrase.
Which is,
we don't want what we want at this point is for our expectations to be subverted by, we'd be shocked if we got a good movie.
We got a good story.
That's what we want.
Well, I always say the climax of a story or a good film should be surprising, but then inevitable. In retrospect, you're like, of course.
Nate, thank you very much.
But it's inevitable that you reach that point, but it's in the telling that you reach there with twists and things, that are surprising. But the music analogy is fantastic, because if you think about it, we're talking about a series of sounds that affects us that profoundly. That literally, I read where they do surgery, and if they stimulate a part of the brain, the person hears music and recalls the exact moment when they heard that music. Or when I'm memorizing lines, I'll listen to music, and if I hear that music again a year later, I remember the lines. I remember what I was saying. I remember what I was doing. It's such a powerful thing, and that we found the notes within that, regardless of the culture. I mean, everybody has different, slightly different scales, different sounds and percussion and stuff, but the effect of the music on people is universal. And you're absolutely right. It's a language unto itself.
I cannot watch Rocky or Vision Quest or Karate Kid and not want to go do something physical,
Yes. Yeah,
I mean, Vision Quest especially. I want to start jumping rope.
it
I want to
revs
start,
you up. Yeah, it does something to your body, and it hits those endorphins, and it hits that
yeah,
motivation in a way that's just. It, it is such a universal way of conveying something that I think there's something so primal that we would listen to sad music when we're already sad to make
yeah,
us sadder to get through it. Or
yeah,
that when you drive, you notice when you put music on, that becomes the soundtrack, and you realize, I just drove an hour and I don't even remember
yep.
driving here or how long it took.
Absolutely true.
That's
That's
music. Yeah.
absolutely true.
Yeah.
And look, what was it for me? It was Star Trek. It was Star Wars. It was. Oh, you know what I've been thinking about a lot lately was that Flash Gordon movie with what's his name,
Sam Jones.
Sam Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go out and get those action figures. You want to do the role. Well, as a kid, do
There's
the role
something
play,
primal.
do
Yeah,
all that kind of
absolutely.
stuff. I mean,
There's a reason why
because
it lasted. Yeah.
exactly. You don't want to subvert those expectations if you want to keep it going.
You know what?
and
It's a
telling the story.
shorthand. That's the problem. If you're really skilled as a storyteller, you can be subversive while still
Yep.
honoring it. But you have to be
Sure.
better than the material you're making fun of. One of the reasons that I find parody fascinating, or when I'm doing a satire, is you have to love the material and know it better than the people that do the material you're making fun of. You have to understand it in and out, why it works, and what to make fun of. And when you're doing subversion, I always feel like it's a stupid shorthand where it's like, well, yeah, it's easy to pick a thing. It's like, hey, he picked up acid and he threw it in his face. Get it? And it's like, well, yeah, you threw acid in my face. That was easy. You want to
Yeah.
shock me. But if you really want to tell a story, those more disciplined things that you have to be,
Got to
where
be.
it's like, I want to feel like Rocky, where I'm losing and I don't think I can make it. And then you have that run that he does with the music, and you start believing that you can overcome
Yeah.
something like that. That's harder to write. And there's no
Actually,
shorthand for that.
that's a great. Rocky's actually a perfect example because talk about subverting expectations.
That's right.
Rocky doesn't win at the end.
That's right. And yet you
He
feel like he won just by
it
being
was
there.
enough of a victory that he went the distance, and
Exactly.
that subverts your expectation. You're like, oh, he didn't win, but you know what? It's still a victory.
Right, because the
That's
movie was
good
being
story.
profound. The movie was
Yeah.
saying that the act of being there was winning. The act of
Mhm.
trying was winning. And you could only get away with that in the 1970s. It's like that was a movie from the 70s. Of course you could be that subtle and nuanced. Now people would be screaming and yelling.
Actually, I don't know. I feel like if a story's done well, I think we tend to underestimate our audience. I think our audience can handle it if it's done well. If it's
I
not
agree.
done well, I mean, I can point to the
It's
endings of
painful.
a lot of movies that thought they were clever, and people are going, I don't get it. And then
Yeah.
somebody comes out and says, well, what it meant was, and you're like, well, if that's what you meant, you should have gotten it in the movie.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, communication should happen in the film. If you have to be explained it, it's like a joke. If no one laughs and someone goes, "The reason that was funny," it's like that wasn't funny. It wasn't humor if you have to explain it to each person individually, or you have to present a pamphlet about why it was good. There's no communication of the idea, and I think. For me, that wasn't accidental because you notice with the Rocky Balboa movie, he also didn't win that at the end when he came back and did it. He
Right.
won by facing his age and getting in the ring one
Yeah.
more time and doing it. And that to me means that it was intentional. It wasn't accidental that he did it the first time. Is that for him, he's just saying, it's like that great speech that is in it. The number of times you get knocked down, it's how many times you stand up. It's what you can take and what you do with it as a person. And believe me, as somebody who's trying to make independent film, you get knocked down all the time. I think Lucinda will definitely back me up that not only do we get knocked down, she's seen me get knocked down by people and we get let down by it, but we love it. And there's nothing else we'd rather do. So a bad day doing that is better than a good day doing something that we don't love.
Just to clarify, I don't enjoy watching him get kicked down on his backside. I enjoy
Yeah,
the
you do.
element
Don't
Yeah.
tell me.
You
Yeah,
would if the
I
music
do.
was right. If the music
Music
was
was
good.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say,
Well, I appreciate
what
that.
what I'm hearing here is that you get knocked down, but you get up again. They're never
Right.
going to keep you down.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Never going to keep you there. Exactly.
Jessica Guajardo says, I will say that most people tend to forget that it's okay for the lead character to make mistakes because they learn from them and become a better
Exactly.
person for it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's boring if they don't make mistakes.
Yes.
That's a big part of it, you know?
I agree. And that is a bad modern trope, which is many characters are created so perfect or so complete that the problem is just the world doesn't realize how wonderful they are, or how special they are, or whatever. And the resolution of the story is always like, well, you've self-actualized that you're a great person and now everyone realizes it. It's much more interesting to see someone who struggles or someone who faces what we face in a story and gets set back or is imperfect as a person.
Well, I will say an example of subverting that expectation, right? Having a
Yeah.
character that doesn't make mistakes, right? Always wins, and needs to be humbled. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
Right? Kirk,
That's a great film.
I don't believe in a no-win scenario. I always win. I always figure it out.
Right.
And finally at the end, he
got knocked
out of
down.
options.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And then, we won. How did we win? I just lost my best friend.
That's right. And how
that
we deal
was
with death.
that was your and what do they? Pride goes before a fall, right?
Yeah.
And people expect that. So,
it's a terrific example. The reason people are still talking about that film is that's not just a Star Trek movie. It's a movie about being middle-aged and wanting to be useful. It's a movie about male friendship, which is one of the most rare things you'll ever see in a movie. Men that
because
actually tell each other they care about it. Yeah, exactly. And then him facing loss and facing death. And his son that hates him, and then he has to reconnect. Right. I mean, there's so many little things in that one little movie. You're like, wow, this is a movie about stuff. And I always think science fiction movies are way better when it isn't about the artifice of the world that they're created, but underneath it, it's, well, why are they still people? Like, how are they still facing what I'm facing in this super cool world? I love science fiction and I love the world, but if it's cold and clinical and it's just the movements in that world, it doesn't do anything. Yeah.
And, I do want to speak to something that Nate's saying. I think he makes a great point. I want to take a little further, especially with the modern female characters. They have a tendency to be perfect. Only problem is that the patriarchy has to be holding them down, and so forth. And look, that's a fine story to tell, but you might only be speaking to half your audience with that, if that. What's more universal, male or female, is achieving something. You know? I mean,
absolutely.
How do you this? We also talk so much about seeing ourselves on screen, right? Representation, right? Well, how represented do I feel? That person could be exactly look like me, sound like me, same age, same skin color, everything. But if they're born perfect yesterday, I definitely can't relate to that.
Right.
So
weird.
I cannot get exactly. I cannot get excited about. I can't imagine myself being this heroic character because I'm not perfect. I can't do that. So that's no fun.
I agree. And as someone who wrote a female protagonist in it, like the Rey example, you talk about Rey Skywalker, Rey whatever, Palpatine, the problem with that was not that it was a woman. The problem was that she was so overpowered at the beginning that literally there wasn't a Yoda moment where she had to learn anything. She was able to levitate more rocks and more things than anyone else. She could fly the Millennium Falcon better than Han Solo the minute she saw it. And it does a disservice to the women that struggle to be the best person they can and to learn and do it. If you had made those 3 films with her as nuanced as Ripley, who made mistakes and whatever, those would be classics because they had all the resources that everyone was ready to love those movies. And the reason I think they declined is that even women smelled it. Women want a good story and they're like, I don't feel like Rey Skywalker. It's like she won the first battle she ever fought with him. And I was surprised. I was like, well, it's okay if she didn't get it in the first, if like Luke, gets his hand cut off and he falls and does. I kind of thought they'd go there with her and she'd find her strength and come back, but she whipped him in the first thing. And I was like, Oh wow. Okay, where do we go from
And
there? And she whipped him again, and then she whipped him in the third one.
and it also doesn't help if you to build up the hero, you make everyone less than.
Right.
I mean, because I feel like there was a lot of people that were excited about Poe and Finn.
Yeah, and poor Finn was running around with water leaking out of him and
I mean,
unconscious.
that was yeah,
Yeah.
no,
I was like,
and he
oh, I
was.
feel bad for him.
That's
I booked
another one.
Star Wars. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the Tin Dog.
Or Oscar Isaac, I thought was
Yeah,
surprising. Disappears in the opening after the ship goes off, and
yeah,
then later it's like, oh, I was okay. I'm back 40 minutes later. I'm good. Nothing
yeah.
happened. I didn't die out in the desert. And I was like,
And
And got
wow,
stuck in the loo.
but you
yeah,
look at the original
stuck in the loo.
example. Luke Skywalker. It wasn't all the Luke Skywalker show. Heck, there were large segments that were
He
all
didn't know what he was
Han and
doing.
Leia.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and exactly. They were equally strong. In fact, I would argue Leia was probably the brains of the operation. And then, you had the id beast, which was, Han, who had to learn to care about other people.
yeah,
And
exactly.
he was cool, and you wanted to be like him. And Luke was a bratty kid who didn't know anything. And then he realized, well, there's this big universe, and the reason I wanted to go off and fight, I thought was for the excitement of fighting, but then by the time he actually does get to fight, it's this desperate battle that he never thought, it would be so difficult.
I never thought of it this way before. But when you think about those three main characters and how they all change over the three movies, you got Luke being he's kind of a dumbass
Farm boy.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the point that by the end, he's the one coming up with the plan to rescue, and he's got
big difference.
The central, and let's face it, ends up not just killing Darth Vader, but rescuing Darth Vader.
Yes, redeeming him.
Exactly.
Yeah, redeeming him.
Leia, who really is, she's brash in her own way, haughty and so forth.
Yeah.
She becomes kind of the heart of the group.
She's
the
the
end.
general who leads the rebellion. I mean, that's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
than
yeah.
being royalty. She became a military leader, which is a huge arc.
And you also see they don't give up her what do you call it, her female side, right?
Her essential feminine
side, right?
energy is there. She
and
still likes Han. She doesn't hate everybody, and
Yeah.
you're
She
absolutely
was a strong
right.
female character without it being in your face.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you got Han, like you said, he gets humbled.
Yeah.
Actually quite quickly. I love the line where he says, "Oh, that's now I owe you," he tells him at the end. This was after the running joke about, "That's another one you owe me. It's another one you owe me."
Right.
And now this is him saying, "Wow,
He has to give back.
you could have just left me there. You didn't. And you orchestrated all of this."
You get the feeling that's the first time anybody went back for him. Like, he feels like the whole world owes him because he never got anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then for them to do that, and the really bold move of freezing him in carbonite and that whole thing, I was like, wow, that's a great, to take that character off the board.
Yeah.
And to have, like we were just talking about on Subversion, the Empire wins basically at the end of Empire Strikes
Oh, yeah.
Back. I mean, there's no victory. So well done. And why is it we knew how to do that in 1979 and we don't anymore now? That to me, as a filmmaker, I'm like, if I could just get a chance through something like Island to just reintroduce that kind of thing to the conversation, to movie making, I feel I would be so happy to just be able to make that kind of story again, where it isn't the sort of cookie cutter that we're seeing now. Like, it's hard to get excited about something like the Thunderbolts thing. It's like, well, it's their version of Suicide Squad done by a bunch of people that are thrown together. We don't like any of them. They're all the same character too, which I thought was really weird. They're all aspects of the same. What's a dark Captain America like? Well, he's got some powers and he's a spy. It's like, that's 5 of those characters. And they're all on the same team. They're not even the Avengers anymore. They're now 5 bad Captain Americas.
Yeah, basically right.
You know what I mean? It's like the red guy, what's his name? He's the Soviet Captain
Red
America.
Star, Red
Right,
Sun.
and right, and Florence Pugh, she's the Black Widow, Winter Soldier, bad version of that. Then you actually have Wyatt Russell as the bad Captain America.
It's funny you say this because a lot of the comic book fans that have pretty much decided they're done with these movies are looking at it going, okay, they're going into the period of Marvel Comics that was the all new, all different Marvel, where they did exactly that. They got rid of all the characters you loved and replaced them with the B team.
Right.
And the comics
almost as good.
The comics tanked.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's like going to the refrigerator and finding the milk is spoiled and then saying, well, you know what, I'll just put it back. Maybe it'll be better tomorrow. That's what they're doing by making movies out of these characters that didn't sell.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, the problem with this is you have people that are in charge of making them that are not fans of the comics. I mean, there's some people, thank God we have James Gunn, who's one of the few filmmakers who's actually running a studio. Yeah. But most of these people, they crap their pants and change their shirt thinking that that's going to change something, and it doesn't. The problem with so many of the things now is it's a copy of a copy of a copy, and even the original people who made the Marvel movies aren't making them.
Right.
I mean, that's gone. Right. Those people are gone. That was 10 years ago.
In fact, I would even argue you don't even need to be a fan. You just need to understand it. Nicholas Meyer didn't understand Star Trek when he did Star Trek 2. He just did his research, looked at it, and says, I understand what these characters are. Yes. I understand what stories these characters tell.
That's right.
I can do that. And we end up getting what is arguably the best film in the franchise.
Oh, absolutely. And I will add, he fell in love with those characters and those people by the end when he had finished it, which is why he did the script to 4 and he did Undiscovered Country with them, is that he was open to, shall we say, the characters and getting to know the actors who were intrinsically the characters. That's the other thing. Yeah. With something like Star Trek, you had the friendship that really was a friendship over 20, 30 years. And they did not try and do what they've redone, which is, let's just recast everybody and we'll have the same chemistry, but we'll just change the lore. Now they met here and now they're this and then they never knew each other. And the problem is you muddy when you could have just done a new original story.
I think that what we've kind of been talking about all around is a general malaise, or as Darth Plato is quoting Nietzsche, a creeping mediocrity that we're seeing in Hollywood today. And you would know this better than I would, just as a fan who, has loved movies and lately hasn't really enjoyed them. My impression is that the cinema isn't doing so well as far as, box office. And I think that the movie theaters are going, please, Hollywood, please make us some good movies that will sell. And
look at Sinners. Sinners is doing incredible, and that's an original.
And this is what it is. It's something that no one's ever heard of, that doesn't have all the baggage.
Right.
That tells a good story. Yeah, it's a good word of mouth. I think word of mouth, has always been underrated. It is so valuable. And the word of mouth gets so much farther in this modern day when we've got YouTube and Rumble and
absolutely.
X, all
it's
of
more
this.
important than ever because it can kill a movie in a way that the movie's never been killed. You could kill a movie doing a tweet during the movie, and you could literally be sitting there and say, this is terrible. It goes out to everyone. You're killing a movie while you're sitting in it on opening night. That has never in history been possible. And it's powerful.
This is why I just pinch the bridge of my nose every time I see another article about a director, a writer, a star, blaming the fans. Now, my first gut reaction is, well, sure, you can blame the fans because they're the ones that didn't come to the movie, but it's your fault that they didn't come to the movie.
Right.
And until you accept that responsibility, nothing's going to change.
Or if you are some dumb person who says, it wasn't made for them.
Well, yes.
Yeah, exactly. You don't tell your audience you're not making movies for them.
At the same time, though, you also don't have to try to make a movie for everyone. It is okay to make it for a niche, but if you do it well enough, then you end up organically building that audience.
And cheaply enough is important, because
that's another good point. You do
huge
yourself no
lesson.
favors by spending millions of dollars
$200 million
extra
on
to make
something
it
that
look
not everyone.
better if the
Yeah.
story isn't there.
I agree. I think not everyone needs to love what you're doing, just enough people. And if you made it for a smart sort of value engineered way, that your people, the people that would really like this story, them coming to it was enough to sustain your company and to be able to pay everybody and make another movie, that should be okay. The idea of pleasing all four quadrants and everybody all the time by spending this money, that is exactly what's wrong, because then you're risk averse. You're not going to hire a guy like me to write a story or do it. You're going to do a committee. You're going to, workshop everything and second guess everything because you're spending so much money. And what you end up with is that camel that's a horse by committee. And part of the problem, too, is the audience has been telling the companies what they want, but they've been saying the audience is wrong. And we know what's right for you, and we know what's good, and it's coming down from on high. And until that stops, and until like I was saying at the beginning of our interview, this artificial scarcity of like, well, we're the ones who know, we've got the ball, we're going to take it. It's like, no, audiences are creeping away from that, and they're more than willing to come out when it's something that they're interested in. But as far as just pumping out product or content, look what Disney did with something, the #1 franchise ever was Star Wars. And in doing it ad nauseum to very limited effect, all these different iterations of it and all the time it's on, it's wearying, but also it dilutes it in a way that you're like, God, I loved Star Wars. I didn't even watch the last thing, and that should tell you something, that there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of restraint on the budgets, but also restraint on, is this good enough? Is this ready? Is it better to have 3 amazing things come out in 10 years or 10 things that are, okay?
Exactly. I want to ask you a question, and I don't do gotcha. This is as softball as it gets.
I'm easy to get. Yeah.
We're totally on your side, but feel free to pivot on this if it's something.
No, that's what Lucinda's for. She'll pivot.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
They call her the pivoter. Yeah.
Do you feel that you're at a disadvantage when you do go to people asking them to read the script, because you're not coming from the place of a big studio, big traditional, kind of a situation?
That's a terrific question. I think for other artists and people that are kind of in the trenches and want to tell a story, they don't know from whence it comes. They don't go, well, wait a minute, are you on the lot, at Warner Brothers? What that represents is resource. It represents access to power and money. So the more money we're able to raise, like I said before, we hired a lawyer, and people would take the phone call when it was even somebody So I think it's proximity to power, not necessarily any particular power. If we were financed in any way, they would pick up the phone and take you seriously. Where my onus is, my responsibility is to repay an investor who has invested in it and get their money back. But also to the audience, my responsibility is to try and do the best possible job at each stage. My job as director is mostly before you shoot. It's all the prep. It's making sure the script's good. The casting is 70% of it, and just me being ready to do the story and know all the technical end and know how to talk to people on the set. All of that stuff has absolutely nothing to do with working for a big studio or working for it. What that is about is a personal code that you have to have. What's your work ethic? Do you mean what you say and say what you mean? Do you have access to money that you can produce it? The problem is you can see that that's what it is, because a lot of really bad stuff that you've seen over the years was because somebody had money but didn't have any of those disciplines, didn't know what was good and what wasn't good. They could just make an offer. They're like, get John Travolta, we're going to make this film, and they've got $20 million. They must know something. Some of the dumbest people I know are rich. And the skill set to get rich has nothing to do with wisdom. It has nothing to do with morality. It has everything to do with luck and proximity to power and often hard work, but in one area. If you're the bean king of the world and you made $1 billion, the bean king can't tell me I've got notes on Island in the Stars and they're worth more. I'll listen to him as a human being and go, well, is my story not clear to you, Bean King? But if the Bean King goes, this is what kids like for the story, I'll be like, and you learn this looking at beans? You know, there needs to be a process that we vet people. That just because you have money and you can buy Warner Brothers, and I'm not saying someone did, but say they did recently, then that person's taste becomes paramount to everything that's picked because, well, he has money or he owns the studio. He must know what's good. Well, look at what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now, the fact they had money did not guarantee that any of that stuff was good. What makes it good is the people you choose and what you choose to think.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Darth Plato, for $2 super chases. Troy would be a good Ben Grimm. Agreed?
Well, obviously.
It's clobbering time. I'll tell you, I don't know if I'd be allowed to take the role. I'm not Jewish.
Oh, there you go.
You've had a lot of Jewish people play Italians over the years. I think it could go the other way.
It could go either way. You're right.
It should be. It should. I'd be okay.
And so just as a reminder, the link to donate to Island in the Stars is pinned to the top of both of our chats. So just right click on it. Because
what Tom was just saying, money talks.
That's
so
right.
if you want good independent film, storytelling, we do this all the time. We complain about the movies that are being made. Here's your opportunity to be a part of the change you want to see.
Right.
That is absolutely true.
The perk is $4 for the booty perk, which sounds
there you go,
delicious. And the highest perk is $5,000 for the
Leviathan.
Yeah.
It's like I can't pronounce words today.
That's booty in terms of pirate booty.
Now,
right. But,
you can also adopt a pirate for $1,500. So
right.
I think that's kind of cool. You get to name the pirate within reason, anything you want, and that name will be in the film.
Yeah,
that's correct.
But
no pirate McPirate face, things like that.
Pirate McPirate face.
I understand that reference.
That's one you should do regardless of whether or not someone requests it. That just is a standard at this point.
That's a good reference. I totally get that. I think too what's kind of fun.
I got that reference.
I got that reference. Your contributions and getting the perks, one thing that's really cool about it is everything that's going into it is actually going to some physical things that are happening. Like that money is directly responsible for us being able to get this actor. That money is directly responsible for us being able to buy the things that we have to buy to make the movie. And right now, it's an opportunity to also show people there's continuing interest in something like Island in the Stars, where people are like, look, I'd love to see a movie like this. I came on board. I'm enrolled in it. We can show people that. And so, look, we actually do have an audience that's interested in seeing the movie. So the more people that we can kind of collect in our camp and say, look, when this thing comes out, they'd buy the Blu-ray or they'd go see the movie. That is also ammunition to help advertising or help a distributor go, oh, yeah, we'll take a look at this. Because as much as anything else, they look at, well, who's in it? Who's interested in seeing it? And did you guys look for an audience? Do you know your audience? You know who this is for? And I'm like, absolutely. Just the nature of doing these interviews, it hones me down on exactly what am I trying to say? What's the story? And who are the people that would enjoy it? And that helps.
I know I've asked this question before, and you've answered it sufficiently, but I'm just wondering if time has brought it more into focus. What are you seeing? Let's just say we know this movie's going to happen. We know the movie's going to happen. It's going to release. Netter and I will be in the theater every weekend watching it as long as it's playing.
Me too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What about marketing? We looking at toys? We looking at a novelization of the film? Or we look,
Absolutely.
Soundtrack album, we got those to look forward to.
Oh, absolutely. The soundtrack, Joe Kramer, who did Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. He did the soundtrack to that. He has become a dear friend, and he's going to be doing the score. He studied at the feet of John Williams. I mean, he has some of his original manuscript.
Wow.
He,
Aged Boomer, if you're still
yeah.
here in the chat, make sure you reach out to Soundtracks with Birdman. Let him know about that. He'll get really stoked about that.
Yeah, to me, music is so super important. I wrote it to various, classical music and to movie soundtracks. So that's going to be a huge component. But more to your other point, marketing. Here's the deal for marketing the film, a percentage of the budget needs to be allocated to do it, and the world building in it intrinsically, I don't like the arrogance of saying we're making a franchise film and there's going to be all these things. No, what we're going to do is we're going to try and make the best first movie we possibly can with a plan that if people are enjoying it, say it really catches, even, kids are like, man, this is great. I love like swashbuckling, steampunk kind of heroes. Yes, a plan obviously would be in place where we could have toys. We were even thinking about shooting on the stage while I have some of the lead people. We would shoot essentially the cut scenes if you wanted to do an immersive video version, video game version, or immersive VR type game. And we would have all those assets.
And we just got a $2 super chat talking about.
There you go. Perfect.
Games.
Exactly. And because it's a quest, it really lends itself to the kind of eddying off onto, I was in Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, and one of the things that was super cool about it is there were a million little sub-stories and quests and stuff in that you felt like you were in a sprawling movie. So I would love to see that in Island of the Stars, because we can make that a thing.
This would be so on brand if you do it, if whoever the pinball company is, if they did it in like a steampunk kind of style.
Yeah, a steampunk pinball machine. I'm there.
Right?
I would love
all
that.
you'd have to do is your basic pinball machine with some wood trim and
some ivory, some brass. Yeah, exactly.
Slap a gear on it and call it steampunk, right? What was I going to? No, yeah, and don't forget, if you do decide that action figures are an option, I know who to put you in touch with. So.
I would seriously love to hear your thoughts on it. I really would. I think that if I do a good job as a storyteller and our team pulls together and does a good movie, there's no reason why you couldn't have fun with some toys and try and get back to that world. Like something I love about movies is like when you really like a movie, you kind of want to live it in little places. Like you're like, oh, I've got the model to Blade Runner right here, or I've got this gun from this, So you want to have a piece
Happy
of it.
Meals still a thing at McDonald's?
They probably are. Yeah.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
They are. Yeah.
They occasionally do the little toys for.
Oh, that's
things.
hilarious.
There's Paul. Yeah, it still goes.
Jessica Hartle, though, said, please keep Hasbro away from the toy line.
Yeah, no. I am not. I would not endorse Hasbro. No. There is somebody that I don't know personally, but I know people who know him. I can get you in touch with them, who started a toy company, independent, very much the same kind of business model. I think you guys would get along famously.
You can read this one, sweetie.
Tom, here's a thought. Hear me out for a second. What if you switch gears and concentrate on making the video game first? Then the studios will come to you and make it into a movie. That's actually not I don't even know if that's you're already well into it at this point.
Fortunately, I could say we're well into it. I thought about it for a minute because Mike Smith, who is our business partner with Lucinda, he is very much into the VR world and creating stuff in the Unreal Engine and everything. The problem is, and it's not insurmountable, but the problem is, say today I said I'm going to do a video game. That is a tech startup, and there's a few places that you can take a video game, and the churn, I guess, of money and people, it would be 2 to 3, 4 years before something was really together and ready to go with a video game. And the sort of man hours and things that would go into it, I don't know enough about it to do it myself, so
I
I
can
would
tell
have
you
to
one
hire a
thing.
bunch of people.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
One
It's still,
thing
we're
is
still talking money and
you would
time and
have to write a whole other story.
Yeah.
Another
Multiple stories. Yeah.
like a side story or almost a sequel to what you're
Yeah.
already doing.
It feels like it would be 50 to say 70 million to get a prototype finished thing. And even then, if I'm doing it independently, I'd have to shop it to Rockstar or shop it to one of the top distributors to get my money back. And the question it always goes back to is, how are you going to pay people now to get the product to the point you can show someone what you're talking about? Because it's even harder to demo a video game. And I'm not poo-pooing it. I think somebody will probably do it. But the idea of reverse engineering and being able to do a video game, there's a reason why there are only a few big video games out that we know. And those do drive movies later. But I can think of no movie company that did the video game first. And that is an interesting idea. And maybe there's a reason why that hasn't happened. But for me, I just don't feel like I have the equipment and the sort of time to do something like that.
Sure. We'll come back to Darth Plato in a second, but I did, because it's directly related to what you were saying. AG Boomer says the gaming industry seems a bit chaotic right now. Anyway, he's actually downplaying that. There's an implosion going on in the gaming industry that is similar to what's happening with Hollywood, but
Yeah.
way worse because they don't have the kind of dollars Hollywood does. And Darth Plato for $5. Thank you, Darth Plato. Best of luck to you on the project, Tom. I'm working on my own space setting story going on 26 years now. But you know what?
Great.
It's those labors of love that are very fulfilling when you finally see them realized.
Absolutely.
Waiting on my disability benefits. Welcome back. Good to see you again. Thunderbolt's just released in theaters today. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier in the stream.
Yeah.
It's
maybe it's good, maybe not, but it does seem like we've played those things out. And if that's where the resources are being spent on sort of the B team Avengers thing, but again, it doesn't seem to fit into an overall big story the way they used to. So they've almost thrown out their original model of storytelling. So
because they're backwards engineering a lot of these now. They didn't, they're making it up as they go along because they loved how obviously they made so much money off those first 9 films that were all tied together.
Right.
Now it reminds me of when you see like someone shares a picture of someplace in, I don't know, somewhere in a country that's not quite as well developed, and you got like, buildings plugged into other buildings, and it looks like and sometimes they do just fall apart. And they're making them up as they go. They got wires all over the place, right? As opposed to, in more developed countries where they plan it all out to the very last. Engineering, not just put together as you go.
Right.
That's kind of what the best franchises were always the ones that were planned out. Whereas, it now seems like we don't know what to do. Let's just rehash this and stick it in here. But that doesn't jive with the story we told, 4 years ago. They won't know the difference. They know the difference.
They know the difference. And it is like telephone. It goes around till eventually people are working on it that had nothing to do with the beginning or what made it good. It's like, hey, let's just get this person. Hey, have you ever seen comic books? No. Well, come on in. You make one. And eventually
is just messed up. And it's like, but that never happened, or whatever. And it's
people love continuity. You're right. You're right.
Well, it's what Richard Donner called verisimilitude, right?
Yeah.
Even if this is a crazy, ridiculous fantasy that can't ever happen, we're going to treat it like it's real. And you've got to believe. You got to believe a man can fly. You've got to believe that Lois Lane and Superman have a shot.
Right.
And that
of course
she's going to realize that Clark is Superman and be okay with it,
Exactly. And he's the fish out of water.
Things you've got, and if you muck it up, if you don't, forget Lois Lane. Well, look what happened when they had Lois Lane not in the movie and they brought in some other female lead. People were like,
Yeah, it's like what happened to the
There were a
chemistry?
lot of
Yeah,
other bigger problems as canon got involved, but
yeah, they're
let's
very
not
true. But
go
you're
there.
right. Having it even looking at the ones that were successful over a long period of time. Let's say Moneypenny and a James Bond thing. You can't have a James
Yeah,
Bond movie where all of a sudden there's a complete denial. Well, Moneypenny never worked here, and she never
yeah,
helped him, and they never did
right.
anything. It's like we all
Yeah.
know we saw 8 movies with it. What do you? What's the cool innovation that you did that you suddenly changed everything because you feel like it? That there's
Or
a
you
kind
have a
of I'm gonna throw the
dynamic
toys up. Yeah.
or you have a dynamic with her, and then in a movie you suddenly change it. If
Yes.
suddenly they were romantically involved,
Right.
or suddenly she, couldn't stand him and was always putting him down. That's not those two
Yeah, it's not
characters.
canon and it's not someone acting the way their character is. It's just somebody going, "Well, this is the canvas I'm going to write my thing. I don't really care about this.
Right.
I'm going to change everything."
Exactly.
And that's the problem. If we only work in IP that has something that, like Netter was saying, you have to respect the continuity of it and the characters, just come up with something else. Just create a new thing. You want a new spy and you want the lady to be the spy? Just don't call her James Bond. Just make a
I'm
new thing.
assuming,
People are
Darth
smart.
Plato, that you mean what you're saying, of course, is Annette O'Toole over Margot Kidder. In which case, I can kind of, I can kind of.
You kind of see. You go for the redhead there, yeah.
But no, absolutely, and I guess that's the breath of fresh air that I think we're all hoping for with Island in the Stars. We see your passion for it. We see, um, I think we've compared you to George Lucas putting together Star Wars, but I'm going to be a little sacrilegious here and say I have even higher expectations, because I think that sometimes George got a little lost sometimes, and I think you've
Yeah,
got you've got it way more together.
That's why his wife had to edit it.
that's right. Marcia was an
Yeah, that's
incredible
not
editor.
wrong.
Yeah. No, she was an incredible editor. And I think George was lucky he had a lot of people around him when he was starting it that said no to him. Gary Kurtz and different people, or even Harrison going, "George, you can't say these lines. Let me just say, I love you. I know, but George had to be smart enough to
Someone to say no to you.
exactly. Somebody say no. Exactly. But that's a good thing
Enter the
because
Yes,
producer.
yeah, exactly. The producer comes in.
exactly.
And you do your worst work when you're in a position where George had no one saying no to him. And I think everybody feels that way when there's nothing to push against and there's no frame to put your art in, then you're just like all over the place without any limitation. It should always be something where you have to challenge what you're creating, or you have some kind of limitation, because that makes you think creatively. And I appreciate what you said about the George Lucas thing. I'd love to live up to it. At the moment, I'm living in that world to the degree that we're creating. How does it work? Why do the ships look ornate? What's going on in the characters, that I can tell this story and it makes sense within its own internal logic. And my world building on it is I can see the long picture beyond the story and before the story, so that everything at least has its own integrity. And I think that's what world building and science fiction can do brilliantly, is you could take those things in the world and go, history is history, but I want to tell it in a surprising way. So I'm going to tell
Right.
the American Revolution in this new way on another planet. And you could still hit all the beats that we learned about the revolution and meet all those characters, but we don't know that the revolution was successful because it's an alternate future. It's an alternate path. And I think that's science fiction at its strongest.
We as we're kind of on a journey with you here too, and we're getting excited about we've heard about the female lead, we've heard about the mentor character. Aged Boomer brings up a great point. Hollywood struggles with making interesting villains these days.
Yeah.
I would argue they don't understand what a villain is supposed to be. They think the villains are the heroes, and that's how they write them. But is there anything you can tell? I mean, there must be some sort of a antagonist, if not a villain.
There's two. There's one that represents the sort of overall problem in the world, which, of course, in this particular one, because it's a nautical theme, it would be someone who's disrupting the order of things, the shipping lanes, the order of natural life, who's pillaging, who represents chaos. The other character is even more gray, which is Vernon Wells' character, and his is a duplicitous character. His is a villain of opportunity. He will be best friends to you until another opportunity presents itself.
Better opportunity comes along.
And then he can justify it in his own mind. And we've all worked with people like that. We've all dealt with people like that, where they are in it for themselves, and they will love bomb you, and then you believe it. But then at the end of the day, they will turn on you. And it's like the story of the the scorpion and the turtle story, where the turtle offers the scorpion a way across the river, and just halfway over, the scorpion hits it with that and kills it. Why did you do that? He goes, "I'm a scorpion. That's what I do. I killed you." And drown us both. And so the villainy, the villain is the hero of their own story. And in the case of Vernon's character, he truly does. If it weren't for these meddling protagonists, he would get what he wanted.
Right.
He would achieve a kind of immortality. He would get his treasure. He would get the things that he wanted, and he'd be a captain again. If it weren't for the collision that happens in them. And what's interesting to me in this story is there wasn't a conscious decision to do it, but it started to grow in that we started falling in love with his character because it's Vernon, and he's genetically designed to play this character.
Yeah.
But then you go, I don't want him to die, and I don't want him to how do we get him into the situation where he does a bad thing, but we kind of understand it? And one thing that I think Hollywood has done wrong is they've tried to explain evil recently.
Yeah.
Maleficent and some other things are just like, or Wicked, this is why they're evil. They were beat as a kid, and it was this, and it was a terrible thing. And yes, that can happen. Someone can turn. But sometimes iconic evil in a story is more a connotation of evil, like you would have in Lord of the Rings, or when we first met Darth Vader, we just were like, he's the Dark Lord of the Sith, he's the bad guy. And then of course they shaded it with Anakin's story and whatever, but we didn't need that story for Star Wars to be good to begin with. And I think over explaining evil has grown out of how successful Silence of the Lambs and The Joker and those things were. But the problem with a movie like The Joker, and we saw it in The Joker 2, was without a protagonist to push against, without Batman to represent, order and goodness, you're just watching a movie that seems like it's made by serial killers and not about a serial killer. Where it's like, oh yeah, he just shot him in the face and he gets away with it, and then he goes here and then he dances and then he does this, and it's like there's no hero trying to stop him. So what do we learn? What did we learn about him? Bad guy does bad things. Is that a great story?
Geek Flag said, Tom, in your world, what fuels your ships?
Okay. Well, it's a combination of things. There's a thing called tachyons, which is an actual particle that can travel faster than light. And tachyon conversion or tachyon particle drive can be used to pilot these ships. In other words, they're actually blowing these tachyons into what would be analogous to a sail, a solar sail, or some kind of a system. And that is what escorts it along at the speeds that you would need to have to go between worlds. Yeah, so it feels nautical, but there is some scientific underpinning to everything in it. And then the whole idea of steampunk was that in a certain way, there's a more mechanical and primitive way that things could function. If say steam and coal and things were still in use, we would have found more intricate and useful ways to make them go. It'd be, well, here's my steam-powered watch, or here's this or that. Yeah. So I sort of took that and went, all right, what's the logical conclusion if this was the thing that this society decided was important? It's like, we don't want to use this gasoline thing, and we don't want to do this, and we don't want to have a fuel cell. What would we do? And I tried to come up with interesting alternate ways that they would have done it. How do they collect energy? How do they store it? What do they do? And using that Victorian aesthetic, which is really what steampunk grew out of, but also great nautical stories are about. It's like it's about the ornate. It's about capturing the energy in this sort of elegant way where you walk in and there's brass finishings in the ship, and you would spend time and it would have teak wood, and because you'd spend 6 months on a ship, do you really want to look like you're in a NASA closet, with a bunch of metal boxes, which is what everything looks like in science fiction now. It all looks like NASA 20 years from now. But in reality, we made ships that had, a Starbuck on the front, and they would carve a beautiful woman's face, and they would have, painting on the side, and the cabin for the captain would be almost like being in someone's estate room. It would be a stateroom. So I just took that and went, well, practically this Australian culture that moved out into the stars, what were they doing and why would it be done this way? And it just started to make sense because it's been done before. We have had a sailing culture that used steam, and we have done that. What would they do, and what's the high-tech version of that?
I've kind of got my fingers crossed for like analog computers and like with
in fact they refer to things as contraptions. He's like, I've got my calculating contraption, and he's got it right here, and it's wood, but it still does.
And you turn a dial or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be brilliant.
We're tactile people in general, and there's something about that. We've already seen the screens where people do this and they move stuff around. That's great, heads-up display. But there is something about being able to pilot a ship and actually put your hands on it that I think won't go away.
Oh, absolutely, Darth Player. There's got to be space barnacles too.
That's right.
Why not?
Yeah.
And if you screw up, you got to put on the space suit and go out on the hull and scrape them on.
That's right. That's right.
I feel like one could argue that triblings were space barnacles in a way.
I mean, you're not wrong. In fact,
that could be a space barnacle. That's a space barnacle.
Yeah.
Exactly
That's
right.
funny. Yeah,
exactly.
Space algae.
Yeah.
So what would you consider next steps? What can we expect?
What do you think, Lucinda? I guess we're waiting to see what the response is.
Look, our
fundraising.
Our biggest next step is obviously taking a step up in terms of the amount of money that we're trying to raise so that we can make these deposit payments on actors that are interested in moving forward. And, when we get someone who is interested, we are a bit sort of held back because we can't just go, sure, here's the offer and here's our 10% deposit. We don't have the liquid kind of, cash on paper that we need to make those offers. So every little bit helps and builds us up to that point where we can be in a position where we know that if we make an offer to, say, Liam Neeson or anybody that's sort of interested in reading the script or interested in being on board the film, which there are a few that are waiting on offers from us.
Yeah.
It gives us a comfort of knowing that we can, follow through with that and make the deposit and get them on board officially, which will then help us raise more funding and the bigger chunks of financing.
I was thinking about that. Obviously, Netter and I, we don't run in those circles. We wouldn't know personally, but I was thinking, if I was to think about who would I ask, I would say, hey, WDW Pro, hey, Andre over at Midnight Says, you guys know people in the industry. Can you point us towards anyone? Just a thought, I mean, actually, I don't know.
Over Midnight Edge, Andre?
Yes, exactly.
I have talked to him about it. He is based in Europe, as you know.
Right. That's true.
And I'm not sure what investment circles or how you can approach somebody, but I could have more of a conversation with him. And those are the kind of people you want to talk to, people that have proximity to money and power. Certainly, if anyone seeing this is interested, we have prepared through the lawyer. We've prepared what's called a investor term sheet. And a thing that is an LOI, which is just a letter of intent, that if someone was interested in truly coming on board and investing, as opposed to the crowdfunding investing where it's a larger sum of money and they're expecting a return. 20%
Right.
return is what we're promising. We have that paperwork, and we want to get that in front of more people who can say yes, because it really isn't that far a distance to, if you can get that 10%, then you're not paying them everything up front. You don't pay
Right.
your actor's salary up front. What you're doing is then you're going, okay, I got this person and I have permission now to tell, Lionsgate, or tell somebody this person is interested provisionally if they're available at this time and can do it. Would you, take this movie? And they're like, yes. And what's it worth? $9 million. Great. We'll take that. And so it is little baby steps, but the big step is being capitalized enough to be able to make that initial offer. You just need one good person on board to move it forward, where all you're doing is buying a safety net. Somebody I've heard of is in this movie, that we feel like we can hang it. There's Tom and Lucinda and all these people we know can manufacture the movie and make it. We just want a face on that movie. We just need one person. George did it with Star Wars. You get an Alec Guinness, or you get a Peter Cushing, or somebody that's like, okay, well-known, seasoned, classically trained actor, and then the rest of the cast is unknown. I mean, who knew who Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher were? So it really is hinging on a few people that who could we put on the poster? And that's it.
There you go. I mean, yeah. This is really exciting stuff. And I was, I was doing a bit at the beginning, but I really was really excited. I'm like, oh gosh, I want to be able to tell people. And so I appreciate that you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was over the moon when Lucinda will say, she goes, "Did you see that email from Brandon? That seemed pretty good." And I'm like, well, I better go look at this. And like in big letters, it's like, Liam Neeson's interested in reading the script, and like huge letters from the lawyer. And I was like, what? Because eventually this is, can be so heartbreaking that you're like, I put it out there. We asked, I'll never hear another thing. So when you get some positive reinforcement from it, it feels amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And if you want to support Island in the Stars, like I said, the link is at the top of our chats. You can click on
right
that
there
link,
to Lucinda's left, right there.
and you can get more than one perk.
Yes,
Troy and I have. You have things like the digital copy of the poster. That's the lowest perk. It's just kind of a thank you for support.
Absolutely.
There's ones where you can get the digital soundtrack along with the copy of the poster.
Soundtracks of Birdman might be interested. Yeah.
You can get a digital copy of the script. You can have a special thanks in the end credits, a digital copy of the film, digital copy of the soundtrack. I'm just going through the different perks, saying what some of the things are. The next one up is everything before that, and behind the scenes vlog. Then there's I wasn't saying the names of the different ones. So the very first one is called the Booty Perk. That's $4, and that's the digital copy of the poster. The second one is I'll Crush You Barnacles Perk.
Yeah.
$9.
Lucinda came up with these names.
I'm very proud of these names.
She's very proud of these names. Yeah.
Digital copy of the poster and digital soundtrack. Back from the Dead Red, $25. Digital copy of the script, digital poster, special thanks to the end credit, digital copy of the film, digital soundtrack. Behind the scenes perk, $30. With that one, you get all the things before that, plus the behind the scenes vlog. So that's where I left off before. Then
which
you have
will
Captain
be, by the way,
Captain.
will be from the set, and we will give you sort of a fly on the wall look at what we're filming and try and have an active camera. And to me, the important thing is that you'll have access. As the perks go up, as the ones you're kind enough to read, as it gets higher and higher, you're just more involved. You can say, I helped make this movie, and I'm in from the ground floor.
Absolutely,
it's like a literal expression of the fact that you are investing in this movie, and the more you invest, the more you are invested, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. You're enrolled. I like to think of it honestly as it's just enrolling you in a movie that if you're like, I'd like to see this, and rather than me sit around and be disappointed, it's like I can do something about it. Here's $30, or I really am interested in movies. Here's $200, and I want to be able to chat with you about it and talk and maybe throw some ideas at you or whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
That's one of the perks.
and if I remember correctly, there was an opportunity for signed autograph and stuff like. Go
Absolutely.
look at what the
There's
different
so many
perks
different
are.
things in here.
Can you imagine?
Okay, this is one that Troy wanted. It's the shot across the bow perk.
Oh yeah.
Because he wanted the star chart vector print.
Yes.
See, again, Mr. Continuity, all the details.
That's
stuff,
right.
And that's only $99. But you get also the soundtrack CD, the IMBD film credit, special thanks to the end credits, Blu-ray copy of the film, digital copy of the poster, digital copy of the script. So you're not getting just like one thing; you're getting a bunch of stuff, and it's all fantastic.
Yeah.
You can
There's a
even
great
have,
scene with that chart.
Yeah, you can even talk to the different stars. So you can have. I gotta kind of scroll down a little bit.
Are you one of those ones that's done a couple different levels deleted? Because I think we did too.
I think Deleted's been kind enough too. Yeah.
We did several different levels. So there's
great.
a meet and greet with Vernon Wells, meet and greet with Emily Koo, meet and greet with Krista Vendy.
I mean, there's opportunities
creators.
to be on the red carpet if you so choose.
That is the Hero's Journey perk, $749. You can be on the red carpet.
Absolutely.
How many people get to be on the red
carpet?
With Lucinda.
With me. With Lucinda, yes.
I'm going to need a day.
You're buying at that point, you're buying an experience, and that's more important than things. It's like you could say, you know what? I went to a red carpet premiere for a movie that I helped produce. I mean, we were trying to think of like, well, what would you get jazzed about? Like, what would I want? What would you do? It's like, I was thinking about it and I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. We should make it where somebody can come and go, you know what? I materially participated in this. I'm standing here. I might never do something that's crazy again, but for this one night, I'm on the red carpet of a movie I had something to do with. You know, to me, it's like buying that experience is kind of worth it.
Completely unrelated to that. One thing I did want to say, Lucinda and Tom, you've been together on both of our respective channels a number of times. Seeing you guys together is kind of blowing all of my impressions of producer-director relationships, right? Because everything we've come to expect is the producers who don't know or care anything about the story saying, well, I just want my return on investment. You better do this and you better do that. And the director going, I
didn't get that memo.
Yeah, exactly. And that is not what I'm getting from you guys. I get the impression you guys work well together and are both of the same vision of that, which is an incredibly
lucky
encouraging thing.
To me, it's the myth of it has to be antagonistic to be quote unquote good or make it any good. I think for us, we've been doing this many years now, and if it were antagonistic, it would be draining. It wouldn't be something we look forward to. It wouldn't be something. There does not have to be that dynamic. We've bought into it. The mythology. I fire somebody on the set every day to keep them in fear. It's like, but then nobody wants to be there, and it makes a good story to say how you're that way. But it's more longevity if it's like Lucinda and I, where at our nadir, if we're feeling bad and we're doing it, we're there supporting each other about it. It's like, it's going to be all right. She'll help me out with something. I'll try and encourage her. Versus, why aren't you doing what I want, or get me what I want, or if she were to tell me, you can't have this and I won't tell you why, or you can't, I don't care about your story, or, if you don't get me the film and I don't get what I want, I'm just going to move on to the next film. Her loyalty there buys you a certain peace that you need when you're creating something where it's like, well, I don't have to worry about all that stuff. We just worry about fighting together against all the already hard stuff versus you see, it makes great television to see, the producer and the director fighting and doing it. It's like, well, they fight each other, then the outside's fighting them to do it, and then they all drive each other crazy and they all end up in a swimming pool dead. So, but
I've seen that movie.
You've seen that movie. You know what I'm talking about. And I guess I've been watching the new Seth Rogen, studio.
Oh yeah.
And it's brilliant, but painful to watch because it's true. But I think what I really appreciate about you saying about working with her and our dynamic is this can be the model for how you create. It doesn't mean that we don't hold each other to a high standard, that we don't try and do our hardest and do the best work we can do. It just means there doesn't need to be negative banter. It can be positive banter, and we still get stuff done, and we still respect each other, and it's so antagonistic against us anyway that it just doesn't make it any more pleasant to just have somebody who, if I was just like, I want my way, and I don't explain it to her about why I'm directing it, she may put up with it, but then I'll know, well, she's just here because she thinks she's going to make money, and that's a very different dynamic.
And if she puts limitations on you, that there's a reason. You don't feel so bad about having to work with it. And let's face it, we've always said those kinds of limitations are always what bring about brilliance.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Tom, I got a question for you, because I don't know if this has ever come up. If it has, I just don't remember it. But are you yourself going to be in the film?
Oh,
you are an actor.
I am.
You're going to do an Alfred Hitchcock, huh?
That was the line. I was like,
that's the line she's not letting me cross. Yeah. Apparently, she wants it to be good.
Get him out of there.
Yeah. She wants it to be good. I had not planned on being in it. I might cameo in it, but I have been in a lot of my own productions, and I have learned a lot from doing it. It's a different skill. And sometimes I don't even give myself credit for it, where it's like, oh yeah, you directed yourself in this feature, or you just did that. But that's so second nature for me. But something this big and ambitious, I need to focus on completely. And so I will not be acting in this one. There are some other movies that I probably will be in, but I'm noticing that I have enough of an internal compass to know this is going to be such a handful that I will do a disservice to it if I try and act in something this big, because it's a jump for me too. I could certainly handle something like the noir, where I was rehearsing with everybody and I was kind of the focal point character it helped me direct, actually. Sure. But on something this sprawling, it would be doing a disservice to it. But I appreciate you asking. Acting is still my day job. It's still the thing that I do, to put food on the table and that kind of stuff, and I absolutely love it. But I know I'm smart enough to know I shouldn't put myself in it.
I understand you saying that, but at the same time, there's part of me that's disappointed, because I could totally see you in the role of like Smee to Vernon's Captain Hook.
Oh God, we'd be great together. Yeah, we would
I'm just saying, but I get it.
I think the Squire would be, Lucinda. I'd probably be the Squire in a movie like this, wouldn't I? No? Okay.
No,
I'm joking.
See, there she is. She's saying no.
Yeah, see, limitations. Yeah.
No. I think so. I mean, look, I want to be an extra, so why not?
Clue says $10 super chat. Thank you so much. A huge salute to what you're doing, Tom. I appreciate the $10 super chat, but maybe click on that link and go see what you might be able to do as far as supporting the project on Indiegogo.
Please take a look if you find value.
There's tiers that are even less than that, so you could absolutely help make this really, really incredible project happen. Very much looking forward to it.
Both of you, I haven't said it enough. Thank you for everything that you've said and done with it, that you're so patient with giving out what the perks are and your belief in it. For me, the reason that I'm here is not to get something, but that I enjoy talking about it with you, and that your genuine enthusiasm for it reminds me why for the last 25 years I've put up with this in LA, is that I'm making a movie for people that are like you, that are nice and that enjoy this stuff, and it makes the daily of getting through it much more palatable to know that it's hopefully going to be something that you guys go, oh, we're going to go see the movie, and it's good and you enjoy it. It kind of makes the years of doing it worth it. And so I'm very grateful.
Yeah, Clue Channel's on his way right now. Go for it, man.
Awesome.
So what you're saying, Tom, is that you appreciate the fans. You don't hate us.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. That's who I'm making
so
this
many,
for.
so many people.
Yeah,
like
you people. Yeah.
Yes.
I think a lot of filmmakers tend to forget that they're fans as well, and it's why they began doing what they do. And there's a disconnect sometimes. Like I'm a huge fan of sci-fi. I'm a huge fan of movies in general,
Yeah.
and actors and directors and different things. And it's like, I think when you lose that, that's, yeah, I think you need to leave the business,
I
because I
think
feel like
there's
that's a disconnect.
also the understanding, if you're a fan of anything, you understand the passion that people
Yeah.
feel. So them having strong opinions, you pretty much have to expect.
Right.
Mm.
And you invite it.
But
You want.
also keep in
Yeah.
mind that fans aren't always going to be as polished as they should be when they're sharing their criticism.
Right.
Um,
I
That's
think it's
why I
good.
don't read Amazon anymore.
well,
It's like,
yeah,
I
well,
was like,
there's that.
why are they
But at
talking
the
about
same,
my ears? Yeah, it's like
but at the
you get
same
all
time,
kinds of stuff. Yeah.
I think many people in the entertainment industry would benefit from paying attention to what is said, looking past the lack of polish, as I very generously put it, and say, what is the truth in that? Have I done something that, if I've done something that a large number of fans don't like, is it justified? For
Right.
example, I mean, you kill off a character, fans are going to get upset. But if the payoff is,
Yeah.
something
Some
going
real
forward,
insight,
that,
transcendent.
you know what,
Yeah. Yeah.
I planned out my story, and this character just had to die. I didn't want him to die either.
Right.
And
And
then
that
you
there's
communicate
a lot
that
of great
possibly
movies.
through the next movie or just in an interview or whatever. Just, yeah, I get it. I didn't want to kill
Right.
him off either. I feel just as strongly about it as you do. That's a
Right.
very far cry from these toxic fans. I can't take them anymore.
Right. Yeah. I think you make a great point. Is that sometimes the story dictates they have to die, and you don't
Yeah.
want them. You fall in love with these characters as the person who's making the character, and also the person who's watching the character. Like, no, 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 no. But sometimes they have to die in order to learn something bigger, or to learn about the sacrifice they made, or whatever. Some of the best films ever have a character that you absolutely love, and you're like, no, 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 no. I know it's coming, but you live that death every time, and you feel it. And I think it feels arbitrary and like a gimmick to just go, I'm going to kill James Bond at the end of this. And then, they kill Bond at the end of the movie. And then it comes,
Right.
James Bond will be back in the next, and you're like, why is that card
How and
after you just
why?
killed him?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's just, the word I was looking for is it's cynical. It's
Yeah.
quite cynical to do that, where it's like, let's kill Han Solo, And I think that's a cheap way to get a shock and a rise. It's a lot harder to create something that, longing for them to live and they don't, or you keep the character alive and they find clever ways that they would stay alive. That's always going to be a
Obi-Wan
little more rewarding.
sacrificing himself so the others can escape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he had done everything he needed to do
Right.
that. And that to me is a surprising twist. You're like, whoa, you killed off Alec Guinness. I mean, one of my favorite things is how they kill Steven Seagal at the beginning of Executive Decision.
Yep.
They blow him out of an airlock, and you're like,
well, Netter loves it.
Yeah.
She's
A lot
not a
of
big
people-
fan of his, so she just
Yeah.
loves when he gets killed.
Yes,
the
a lot of
best.
people love when he gets killed.
yeah,
So much
it's
of
the
the film, I
it's
was
the best.
Did they just kill off this big star?
That's right.
Yeah,
It's just like, yeah,
what a
looks like
great movie, though, that they kill him off right up, in the first action
And
sequence.
he actually has a good death too. I mean, it's,
Yeah, and
Yeah, he goes,
it's meaningful, and you
well,
go,
no,
oh,
I
wow.
meant it's a self-sacrificing thing. But yes, it was.
What it does is it introduced that people can die, characters can die in that
Yeah.
story, and that they're stakes, that they're not, that's my problem with prequels is, like as good as Andor is, that
Yeah.
Cassian Andor cannot be in peril or die in the series because Rogue One hasn't happened yet.
Right. We
So,
know how he dies.
Chewbacca in Solo, one of the saddest scenes for me was they have that train scene and Chewbacca puts his head out and the rocks are coming by, and like the implication is if Chewbacca doesn't get his head in there, he's going to get his head ripped off while they're ripping off the train. And I was like, there's 6 more movies after this.
Yes.
Of course,
yes,
nothing
we
happens
know
to
he
Chewbacca.
survives.
Yeah, so and that is what makes prequels inert, because if you know the characters can't die, putting them in death situations doesn't mean anything, because you already know that they need to be alive in the next one, which is why they keep making that same mistake where it's like,
Yeah.
well, Han Solo, has to learn the lesson of being a rogue and then rescue people, but then apparently he forgets that entire lesson, and then he's back in
Exactly.
A New Hope, and that's my problem with it.
Clue, thank you again for $5. It says, Tom, if you make a movie that makes us feel the way we did watching Star Wars in the theater in the 70s, you will be a hero. Yeah, I think that, yeah, that's absolutely true. I'm thinking, if you can make me feel like I did when I first saw The Godfather, but, Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I would never presume to do it, but I remember that feeling.
Yeah.
And when I was writing with Mike, and then I did some stuff with Alan Dean Foster, who's the script consultant on it, the last
Wow.
time I read the script, I did feel that. Like I felt this burning desire to see it, but also I had this feeling of that exhilaration of like, if you could pull this off. And I felt like I went somewhere, and I felt like I went on this journey, and I started to just love these characters, and it was like a drug. You wanted to go back and be with them and spend time with them in that world. And to me, that's the litmus test of if you walk out of a movie theater and for a little while you feel like, I feel like Indiana Jones and Marion Ravenwood, It's like if you feel like that when you're walking out, you've done your job. And so, yeah, I'm chasing that feeling, and I would never presume to think that I have some kind of a formula or answer to do it. But that's what you're chasing, and I think it's a noble thing to chase.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I think everybody is really, really excited, and I just got to say, I think that Hollywood is getting a bit of a shakeup, but I think this is also going to kind of give it the kick it needs.
It's
to
a good
say,
thing that it's happening. In every
yeah,
tragedy, there's an opportunity. And
yep,
I do think because no one knows anything more than ever now, I
yeah,
feel that this is an opportunity for Lucinda and I to forge a a little pocket of independent storytelling and filmmaking
hmm,
that because none of the systems are working, any of
yeah,
them could work. And
true,
so we don't swing for the fences every time with the budget and things like that. That we have, we have to make $1 billion or we go under. Which is the green-eyed monster that everybody seems to be chasing. Which is, even the people that made Blair Witch, the next Blair Witch movie was like $10 million when the first one they
yeah,
made was under a million, and of course it crashed and burned. If we
right,
made things to scale, say we made Island and it did really well, well, the next movie would be the same scale with the same degree of care, but it wouldn't need to cost triple the amount of money to make.
good,
The
good,
ambition is within the story, not necessarily,
yeah.
well, now I've got to pack it with all this other stuff. It's like the sequel should just be a continuation of the story. It should be
So
in the same world.
so what's really novel is the business model. You're striking out down unblazed territory with
Correct.
your business model, but what's tried and true is the storytelling, is the
Right.
filmmaking, you know.
The thing
Um,
that we're selling is tried and true. You're absolutely right. The method by which we're creating it is different and disruptive
yeah,
only because look how it's done now. It's tech
yeah,
corporations are buying up the means of delivering streaming and doing all that. So
right,
the projectors are making the stuff they project. It's like,
right,
well, I make a streaming company, I better make some movies. That's the degree of thought that's going into
right,
some of this. And they're reaching out to great artisans and dangling a lot of money. But the problem is when your loss leaders are $200 million, it's like, okay, we got Martin Scorsese, but we didn't charge for any tickets, so we lost
yeah,
200 million, but we could say we did it. But who are the directors and producers that grew out of this new Netflix ecosystem? There aren't any. It's
right,
not like Roger Corman where it was like, oh, it's James Cameron, or then we got a Coppola, we got to see.
yeah,
No one grew out of that system. It could have been anyone directing those movies. It's a white paper that was handed down and said, okay, Ryan Reynolds is big and science fiction's big. You're going to direct this, and then next week it'll be forgotten. It rockets to #1 and then it's forgotten. There's no soundtrack, there's no poster. And what we are positing is Luminactus will produce genre movies that are classical storytelling, old Hollywood style, where the audience is not talked down to, we're challenged, but by the same token, we're not thumbing our nose at them. But the method by which we're financing it is by the artist reaching out to the audience and to private investment and going, put your money where your mouth is. we will deliver a great story to you without all the gatekeeping and all the appeasing you have to make a movie now, because there's too many levels it has to go through that hammer down. Look at the best stuff. Like that new Godzilla movie that came out of Japan.
Yep.
That was less than $20 million film, and
Yep.
no one from a studio gave them notes.
Yep.
I mean, they just made the movie, the ultimate Godzilla movie they wanted to make, and they literally got an award for the visual effects because the director did the visual effects.
Exactly.
And
right.
that's the little magic that nobody's saying. At the end of the day, like, well, how come that did really well? And it's like, well, yeah, look how it was made. Look how it grew out. It grew out of someone who wanted to make that movie. They were left alone to make that movie, and it wasn't made for so much money that a zillion people cared about how it turned out.
Yeah.
So, well,
exactly.
I put in all this money. You need to put this in it, and you got to have this in it. It's like he just told a story about a guy who felt guilty about surviving the war, and then the Godzilla became representative of all the things you fear about modernism and the nuclear threat and everything. Yep. And he told that story, and everybody loved it, even in another language. They loved it. And why that is not reproducible is absurd. But the problem is, everybody goes, well, it's magic. I don't know how that happened. It's like they don't want to admit that it was leaving it alone that was the reason it was good.
Exactly. But yeah, that's. Is there anything that we didn't ask you that you wanted to get out today that you need that people need to know?
Well, it would be helpful also to just mention 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea that I did with Vernon is available now. In listening to it, streaming it, that's money that could also flow into the coffers, and you just can listen and enjoy it. It's streaming on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's available on Audible, all these different places. It's on a podcast called Radio Reborn. I encourage you to put that out as a thing. I am appearing in a Bosch Legacy episode right now on Amazon. I think it's episode 7 or 8. Okay. So if you want to see some of my acting, I have a little part in the Bosch series, and I have a couple other acting projects that are coming up that I'll be able to talk about when they come out. And then beyond that, and I'll certainly turn this over to Lucinda, is the more you take a look at the project, and if you feel like there's something of merit, the more that you can enroll in it and pass this on and tell your friends about what we have, or look at this interview, that is the money and the power that we will have to be able to make these offers, to keep our lawyer, to do all that. We are not rich people. We are people like you that simply our job happens to be making movies and doing entertainment. And we are the silent group, the middle class, if you were, of these people. And we just want to make some good stuff. And so you could directly affect how it can get made.
Absolutely. And you don't have to just pick one perk. We picked several. And we're really excited to see this movie happen.
And not only
just excited about it.
Not only the Island in the Stars, we got that linked above. We've got it linked below in the description, but also in the description, make sure you're following Lights Camera Konkle. Check out some of his other stuff over there. See his body of work over there.
The movie's on there? Yeah.
The movie's on there too. Tom, you might also want to, whenever you get a chance, just flick on the camera, record yourself talking about a project that you're in that's coming up, and put it out there. It doesn't have to be a bit, just to let people know, because it's a great way to say, hey, go check out this movie that I'm working on. Go to Amazon and watch this episode of this. So forth.
And if you guys are fans of film noir, Trouble Is My Business is a fantastic movie.
Absolutely.
We own 2 copies of it.
Talking about Vernon so much,
Yeah, he's great in that. And that's a labor of love as well. That's a love letter to those kinds of films and that style of film. And we had a ball, and just amazing people in it. And I'm proud of it. I love that it resonates with people. And to me, that was what scrappy indie films were in the 50s, were film noirs. They would get together and be like, I got a light and a hat, let's make a movie.
There you
and
go.
that's really it. But yeah, Lucinda, is there anything else we should talk about?
Well, I mean, I have an Instagram series coming out soon, probably in May or June, that we just shot in January up in Queensland, called
Awesome.
Not Russian Anywhere. So it's like a play on, obviously, the Russian culture, and it's about a Russian family living in Australia, an immigrant family, with a lot of Russian humour thrown in. So that was a lot of fun to shoot, and that's coming out hopefully either May or June, depending on how our post schedule goes. But yeah, no, I've got a lot of projects that are out on Amazon and Tubi, and a lot of feature films that I've done over the last few years that are available to watch. But I'm worse than Tom at spruiking them. I'm like so focused on, okay, cool, I did that one. That's awesome. It's out there. I got to get the next one done. Keep sort of
Right.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
focusing on the
Yeah.
next one. So,
So go
you know,
go look at her IMDb, see what the
Yeah.
most recent movie is. IMDb will even
Yeah.
send you to a streaming service if it's out
Right.
on a streaming
Yeah.
service.
Yeah,
So-
that's
And
right.
hey, that might
Yeah.
be an idea for your Monday night members. Monday night the movies, sweetie.
Yeah,
Show some of these
possibly.
exclusive
Very,
ones.
very possibly. But
Mm.
so that's all I got, except to say that if we haven't held up deleted scenes too much, you stay right where you're at. Right after the stream, you'll be forwarded to deleted scenes for his coming attractions. Netter, the link is in the private chat for you if you
Thank
haven't
you.
already set that up.
I've been too busy playing hostess.
Yes, absolutely. And we're not going to go into everything that we've got coming up. You guys all know what we got coming up tomorrow night. Last call, 9 Central on my channel. Talking about the Last Doctors. No more Doctor Who after the Doctors we're talking about. Saturday over to Big Al Presents Films with Friends for Incredible Shrinking Man and everything that Deleted's going to tell you about in just a little bit. Saturday afternoon, I'll be guesting over on Real Wade Nation Gaming's Rumble channel for a rewatch of Tron and Tron Legacy. And Tom and Lucinda, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us and allowing us to share what we can. We see all this information. We just wanted to share, and we just can't because we don't.
It was exciting when we found out
We didn't
about
want
him
to
reading
step
it.
on anything,
no.
but we want everyone to be excited. We want
Yes.
to see this happen. So thank you so much for
I
that.
appreciate that.
If you'll stick with, and Deleted Scenes is dropping.
I
the
did
link.
do the redirect, so if you stay right here,
Stay right here,
will be
and you'll
automatically
be redirected.
directed.
And Tom and Lucinda, if you stay with us for another 3 minutes through the credits, we can say our goodbyes on the other side of the credits.
Sounds
But
good.
of course,
All right.
you know how I always end my streams.
Yep.
We can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well good and fun. But it's so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat and you're dropping your comments, questions, trivia, being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or continents in some cases. It feels like we're all hanging out in our family room, enjoying each other's company and having a great time. And you guys, you know you're not just our friends. You are our family. We love you guys, and we appreciate you so very much. You can be anywhere right now, and you're here. And that means so much to all of us. You are so encouraging, not just to our panel members, but I know you encourage each other in the chat, just when you say hello to each other and all that. It's just really encouraging. And I love seeing you guys, and I love seeing the interaction. So thank you for that. Thank you for the many ways that you support our channels.
Yep.
You guys are AWESMOE. And until next time, good night and God bless.
Salute.
all for.